Welcome, friends, to episode 216 of Color of Magic, or Magic Gaming Podcast, where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, Daquan Watson, and for 216 episodes, still got my man Brian Allen riding shotgun with me. How you doing, dude?
216 and Allen 216 said no.
I don't even know what 216 is. You'd have to find a book.
I don't either. So
you'd have to pick one, and we have to make it up to make it fit.
And I feel bad because I went to Methodist leadership camp and everything. I feel like I should know, but I'm sorry. Like all the other information I learned in school, that went in one ear and out the other one.
Dude, there's so much information that unless I learned a specific reason I need it or a fun way to remember it, it's just lost to the ether.
No, like my very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas.
Yeah. Dude, I learned how, I think it was the quadratic formula to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. That's the only way I can remember it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I get it. Because there's so much stuff in school that, especially in U.S. schools, because they teach us a bunch of stuff for passing tests that you never need in your real life. So just when am I going to need to find the sign of a triangle or whatever? That never has come up in my adult life. Now, geometry or whatever, it makes sense. I'm rearranging a room. I got to see if furniture fits, whatever. I can do some numbers. Awesome.
Yep.
But all the other stuff, not really. Yeah, before we get into everything, though, I want to remind everybody, check out our sponsor. Go over to CoolStuffInc.com. They have sweet stuff for Magic, all kinds of other nerd stuff, and they support the show and other cool creators. And you can save 5% on your order if you use code DRAGON, which is awesome. So go over there, support the show, save some money for yourself, support a good company over at CoolStuffInc.com because they always have cool stuff in stock. And if you want to support the show directly, you can go to patreon.com/colorofmagic. You can get a shout out just like Dennis Trinkle. Thank you so much for being a patron. Much appreciated. And finally, you can go to colorofmtg.com/shop if you want to pick up a couple of nice things and support us. But for now, let's get into the soapbox. I think we have a couple of things here. All right, so we had an issue this week. Started out on Twitter because, why wouldn't some drama start on Twitter? And I'm not going to out anybody because this was a private conversation in a private group thread. So I think it's worth mentioning, but I'm not going to say any names or beyond the initial detail. There won't be anything else. But this creator was having a moment because he was feeling, I don't know, attacked in some ways. Maybe, I don't know what the right word is. I'll let you decide that. But we say he wants to talk to a couple people and, we're offering support or whatever. And he says, I got told that it feels like I discount myself and hold back how black I am in the Magic community because of how polite I am to people. Literally everybody's response was, what?
Yeah, I don't know. Is that still in English? I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, it's like, wait. So what he was being told is because he's so polite, he's not being true to his blackness in the Magic community. So the insinuation there from this other person is that to be black, he needs to be aggressive and rude.
Hello, welcome to the F. Whitey stream.
I mean, but I'm just saying, that's basically what they told him, though, right? Like you aren't being true to being black because you're being polite to people. That's
because there are no polite black people. This is some Uncle Ruckus right there.
Yeah, exactly. No relation, right? But and I bring it up because we already do some level of code switching, right? That's a known thing. Whenever I do commentary, I ain't gonna speak the same way. I'm gonna speak to you if we're just hanging out. That's just gotta pay bills, Hell, recently Mario Lopez is dealing with that because he does these TikToks and stuff with friends, just going around California eating Mexican food, and and he's hanging out with his TOs and whatever, and using Spanish slang, whatever. And people are like, what is this about? Does he even really speak Spanish? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, bruh, he ain't going to be that way on Entertainment Weekly or whatever the show is that he
No.
does because he's got to pay bills. Like, what's he supposed to do? Right. Even when I saw it, I didn't even I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't even think twice about it. I'm like,
It's
his
like, have you
name
seen
is Mario Lopez. Like, what'd you think?
have you seen the lady on social media where she's a news anchor and she basically tells people to mind their business in her news anchor tone of
Yeah.
voice? And great.
But it's exactly that. And I bring it up because when we talk about different issues that affect people of color or whatever in various communities, this is the type of stuff that comes up. That there's an expectation of you're going to be a certain way. And if you're not, oh, well, you're being fake. And it's like, no. Like, hell, anybody who knows me, I am not rude to people. I have helped tons of people. Hell, I have literally given things, money, whatever, when I didn't even have it to give, to people in the community, customers in the store, hell, local things that I'm not even associated with just because to help people. But to say that I'm like less black because I'm doing that is just stupid. I mean, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
and you talk about like, why do we say like it's important to have people of color and whatnot in your gaming spaces and whatever? It's because of stuff like this, literally, right? Imagine being a person who's told that, and then you're like, well, crap. If I go into, am I not allowed to be myself if I go into a space and it's all white gamers? Not to make it like a racist thing, but I mean, that's the thought that gets had,
You gotta be
right?
flipping tables, sir.
Yeah, so it's tough. It's tough. Obviously, we just said, hey, look, that's somebody else who's got some other issue. Really has nothing to do with you. Like, if you're being yourself and having a good time and you're raising your status and you're making money, then to hell with the rest of them. You're doing what you need to do. You're entertaining people. You're enjoying what you're doing. Keep doing it. Hell, the flip side of that is there's people out there being complete jackholes getting paid. All these dumb pranksters going in and like punching people and threatening people or whatever and recording it and put it on socials or whatever. You don't want to be that guy. Like,
And
for
I'm
sure.
amazed it took this long for one of them to get shot. That just
Oh,
blows
there,
my mind that it took this long.
there's one that got shot. There's one I believe got stabbed. There's another couple that have ended up in the hospital because they just ran up on the wrong. There's one dude, I just saw this the other day. One of them runs around with a bodyguard. So he basically like low level antagonizes people. And then when they get into his
Can't hear
face,
me?
the
Can't hear
bodyguard
me?
steps in. And I'm like, really though? Like, this dude, literally, those are the people that are out there that people are like, oh, whatever, that's normal behavior. Like what? Dude, literally, I saw him like shoulder check a guy purposely coming out of a department store. And the other dude's like, man, what the hell? And then, of course, bodyguard slides between them. The other dude hadn't even been aggressive yet to even throw a punch. He just kind of like, what was that about?
Yeah.
And it's like,
As you would if somebody
yeah.
shoulder checked you.
Well, because part of it is like, my reaction would first be like, okay, was that somebody I even know that maybe has a grudge with me and I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on? So it's more of just
Listen, they
like,
brought some big swole dude with them.
yeah.
It's like,
So it's
what's
just
going
like,
on right now?
what even just happened? Especially if you're minding your own business, just like coming out of a store and you don't know what's going on. Like, so yeah, like we told him, dude, don't worry about it. Just be yourself, be cool, whatever. Like, we're out here doing our thing. If people want to be mad at us, they're just gonna be mad. It's a wacky thing. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'm gonna let you have some time here.
All right, shocking, probably no one. The latest Doctor Who holiday episode, The Star Beast, is getting review bombed because there's a new trans character and a trans storyline. And the thing that's bizarre about that is, like, of all the shows to complain about being too woke, Doctor Who, like, have you been watching this show for the past, basically 60 years? The show has always been about somebody who is a Time Lord and can regenerate into literally anyone. They've been telling you this. Now, admittedly, in the 60s and 70s, he usually regenerated into between 25 to 40-year-old white dude, but still, they always told you a Time Lord can be anybody. Time Lord has been female, has been black. The next Doctor is going to be black, so if that's something that just really triggers you, Doctor Who is not only not for you now, it's really never been the show for you, because that's that's what the show has always been about, is radical change, how it affects people. The Doctor's always been one of the best gimmicks in sci-fi, where, hey, the actor's leaving, how do we solve that? Regeneration has always been the best gimmick in sci-fi. Hey, Doctor almost died. Now they regenerate into somebody different, and it gets, even if you hadn't watched it a year or two, now you're hyped because you want to see who the Doctor turns into next. It just blows me. I mean, again, I'm not surprised by it because that's the world we live in. But it's just, if you're opposed to people being transgender, people finding the best version of themselves, this is not the show for you, and hasn't ever really been the show for you.
Man, I just find it amusing because we grew up with like Boy George, Prince,
Right?
to some level, like, what was it, Billy Idol?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Kiss.
I
I
mean,
mean,
even to some extent, probably David Bowie. like,
to extreme extent, David
like
Bowie.
just saying George Michael. I think like there's some that were all over that spread that like we didn't even care. We didn't think nothing about it. They're entertaining. That's it. That should be kind of the end of the discussion. The rest of it doesn't really matter, honestly. Like if they're
For
entertaining
those of
and the
us that are
product's
wrestling
good,
fans, every company always had somebody like Exotic Adrian Street,
yeah, yeah.
Gold Dust, somebody that was pushing all the boundaries, and they were always among the most popular characters.
Dude, did you ever hear the story on Goldust? Like it was pitched to him as an androgynous character, and he didn't even know what the word androgynous meant.
you know,
He was
that
just
that
like,
does,
I know I'm going to get a gimmick. They're going to put me on TV regularly. I'm in. Yeah.
yeah. And I
So,
mean, it has extended his career by what, 20 years, because
oh,
he's
for
still
sure.
wearing face paint. He's still, doing a kind of like almost like a split personality gimmick, where again, you never know what Dustin Rhodes is going to come out there wearing or what he's going to come out there doing.
Yeah. So it's tough to see people upset about that. Like it doesn't affect the product. The end result is the same. So, whatever. I mean, I think it's just, again, I'm with you. I think it's just part of the world we're in now,
Yeah.
where if there's anything that somebody doesn't agree with or like or whatever, it's got to be the end of the world, and they got to post about it. There's going to be 15 Twitter threads or whatever. But it's like, eh. Especially if it's not even like the regular reoccurring characters or whatever, and it's one episode, and it's like, all right, fine. You know how many questionable things we've had on the shows over the years that we go,
No.
they're dealing with a particular issue this one episode. Fine. I mean, we talked about it off the air. Shows being woke are really not are woke because it's not even what it used to mean anymore. They're using it a completely different way. But
Everybody had their very special episode. Usually, we growing up in the 90s, with this, I started to say TGI Fridays. You know what I'm talking about? The
yeah, it was.
ABC lot, TGIF.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
They were always doing some societal issue. Now, did they always handle it right? No, because these are kid-oriented sitcoms. Sometimes they couldn't get the messaging or the writing, but they always tried. And
Oh
for the
yeah,
most part,
but I think if you go back and look, I mean, pretty much every show we watched had their like issue of the week, right? Whether it was
yeah.
poverty or racism or it could be infidelity or theft or whatever. They were always dealing like a character gets into a situation, friends or family help them work out of it, and here's the resolution. That's pretty much what every sitcom was. It didn't matter if we were
Every
talking about
sitcom character always went to jail. This is just
yeah,
the
but like
sitcom episode. You see, somebody goes to jail, somebody delivers a baby, and in so many occasions, they talk about, okay, why is this poor woman not able to get to the hospital? They might deal with that.
oh
Like,
yeah,
oh, where's the dad? Oh, he ran. TV's been doing that.
but you're talking about it doesn't matter if it's Family Matters, doesn't matter if it was Full House. Hell, you can go even
Yeah,
way back. It could be Happy Days, Silver Spoons, like whatever.
yeah.
They all did it. So it's like to be mad at a show doing it now, and you're just using it to tell a story or a life lesson. Like, whatever. People can just be mad.
Especially with a sci-fi show. That's what sci-fi is about, is kind of transformations and things that you didn't expect to see happen and how people deal with.
I'm with you. I'm with you. But let's talk about what we learned this week because this was an interesting week for a few different things. But yours is a little less gamer or business focused. So why don't you go first?
Well, this one of the most speaking of controversy, one of the most controversial sports entertainers ever, CM Punk is back, and they actually did a very good job of kind of doing. Apparently, even a lot of people on the WWE roster did not realize he was in the building or that he was coming back. They actually acted like they were going off the air, had the WWE logo 2023, and then oh wait, CM Punk's music hits. A bunch of people said they missed it because when obviously when you see the trademark 2023 logo, you turn the show off. You know it's over. So a couple of people turned and then missed the whole thing, and then the next morning, what happened? Why is my social media exploding? So,
but I will say this: I think for as much as I thought it was silly that they didn't do anything with him when he came out, other than him just be there and then just walk back, I guess it's a smart way to do it because WB has become masters of social media.
yeah.
Right. So if a bunch of people miss it, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to go look it up on YouTube on the WWE, channel just to make sure they can see what it was. So,
And I think they said they got 71 million views in 24 hours or something.
Because immediately everybody's like, oh, well, now I got to see what I missed. Right. And I got to go check it out. So that part I get. But yeah, so far he's been there and he came out on Monday night, didn't say or do anything really on either one yet. So we don't even know what the plans are, if there are plans for him to be back yet.
Well, when your show is on 52 weeks a year, you drag this stuff out for as long as you possibly can. We understand this, and in yours and my case, we've been watching this for almost 50 years at this point.
Sure,
So
but at least give me
clearly the formula works.
Like, just give me something. Like, have them insult one guy or call somebody out and then end the show and leave him with a cliffhanger or something.
Well, I mean, they did. Yeah, and again, it was through social media. You saw Seth Rollins flipping the bird, getting mad, and Drew McIntyre left, and we're still debating was that part of the show or did Drew really leave? Who knows? But we're all still talking about it. It's a thing. So right now, you can say they did almost everything right because we're all talking. As opposed to if he just does the usual, hey, he runs in and he hits somebody. I don't know if we're still talking about it.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know. We'll see, man. Obviously he's super popular. I think it's going to be good for their business, even if it is a short run. Like I said, if he's just around for 6 months, that's probably going to be an extra $3 to $5 million in 6 months.
Exactly,
because he exists. So cool.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And like you said, it made you money. It's going to basically cost you nothing because you're turning a profit on this.
So it's cool. If nothing else,
they probably already made their money back.
Well, they probably made a few $100,000 just on social media over the last week, probably.
You got to figure ticket sales for whatever the next thing is.
Well,
there will probably be.
That's one thing people know. They've been selling out shows for the last couple of years now. Even they've been killing it. So
now we're gonna have some scalping. Not that they get any money from that, but we're gonna have some tickets. There's gonna be some gouging going, especially for Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. It's gonna be wild.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, around that same time, we were dealing with Black Friday weekend, and I think we finally reached the point where Black Friday has just ruined itself. And I've been predicting this for a while because I told people, like, you reach a point where first, because remember, I don't know, maybe some of you aren't as old as we are, but I knew people that literally on Thanksgiving would look for all the things they want to buy people, especially like nerd stuff, right? People are going to, we got to go to this place to get the computers and whatever. And we got to go this here to get the game center, get the game consoles. And we got to go here to get this thing. So the family, after they ate, would literally split up in groups of 2 or 3, go to the different places and camp out for like 10, 12 hours to be the first ones in the door to get whatever crazy deal is. They save $50 on this thing, $100 on that thing. Well, there's not a need for that anymore. No. One, as stuff has moved online already, you can get the same sales without having to go anywhere, which is also better for the companies because they don't have to ship stuff to 1,000 locations. They can just leave 50% of it in just a warehouse somewhere and ship it out, right?
Nobody has to risk getting pneumonia.
Yeah, that's true. Though I did see some people who are enterprising and they would bring hot coffee and donuts for like $1 or $2 and just give everybody in line, which can't hate them for it. Smart move.
No.
But the other issue is we were seeing, I say it lightly, Black Friday sales on like Monday. So there were places you could have got the sales you were going to get on Black Friday 3-4 days ago. So you didn't have to go wait in line and get trampled or whatever.
It's
So
the same thing we see it happen with E3, where it just keeps, somebody does their press conference on Friday, then somebody says, we know we're going to do ours on
Yep.
Thursday, and now E3 is 3 weeks long. even if the show doesn't happen, there's still people having press conferences in that time frame without even checking with the people that run E3. You just do your own thing now.
Yeah. And even, I guess, 10, 12 years ago, we introduced Small Business Saturday, right? So that was a thing. So you had Black Friday, and then some people were saving their money because they want to shop with their favorite local spots or whatever. So then that was a thing. And we introduced Cyber Monday. So then now
Yeah.
people are not wanting to go all out because they know there's going to be extra sales on Monday, or the stuff that doesn't sell out on Friday gets deeper discounted on Monday or whatever. So yeah, there's no reason for any of us to go gaga on Black Friday. Like, don't get me wrong, still peruse a couple of websites, maybe shop with your local store, see
Yeah.
if there's some sweet deals and pick up something. But you don't have to be there at 6 in the morning, right? Because you can still get good deals all day from a bunch of different spots. And then, like I said, even some of my personal sponsors, whatever, had deals on Friday, all through the weekend, and on Monday. So it's like you didn't have to be in a hurry even when shopping. You had 4 days, right, to do everything.
Well, Amazon had their Black Friday football game. It was part of encouraging you, don't go outside.
Yeah,
It's cold,
exactly.
and just stay home. And if you want a bunch of dudes, hey honey, I'm going. That's great. Have fun. I'll
Dude,
be here watching this football game.
here's the thing I always wondered, and I found out it's true. There's actually a legal thing that they can't show games on Friday nights and Saturday nights. There's actually, I think with the government, there was actually a deal with the NFL to where that's why the Friday night or the Black Friday game wasn't that late in the evening. It was earlier because it was part of the agreement, like to not be on Saturday night, I guess, officially. So yeah, it's like this whole thing. And that's why and you see until the regular season ends for college football, then you start getting games on Saturday
Yeah.
from the NFL. Right? They can't have them on certain nights. I think they got exceptions for like COVID because that was like a weird
Yeah.
time, because you had an exception. But yeah, there's actual legal standing why they can't do
Okay.
it.
Which that works better for Amazon anyway, because if they're trying to stop you from going out shopping, and that's absolutely what Amazon is
Yep.
trying to get you to do, is to stay home. You want it to be, before people, because nobody goes out shopping at 8 p.m. when you'd ordinarily be starting a football game. I think it started around 12:30 or 1. Like, yeah, that's when people would still be shopping. And so if you're out, you're coming back home, or if you're decided to go out, you're probably staying home. Now the game was terrible, but NFL is NFL, and I think it did about 10 million
Of
streaming,
course.
which is those are the numbers NFL does.
I'm going to say this too, that if you did look around on Black Friday, there were a lot of crazy nerd deals to be had. Like tons. It didn't matter if you wanted dice, you wanted sleeves, card boxes. Hell, I saw people getting collectors booster boxes of Magic stuff for like $50 in some places.
Okay.
So there were a lot of crazy deals to be had. So when people said, "Oh, people aren't spending money on Black Friday," like, no, I saw people spending plenty of money. Like, I don't think that was a problem. It's just they weren't rushing out to go to Walmart, Target, whatever, and fight crowds or whatever to get stuff. Like, okay, great. This $300 TV is now $239 or whatever. Like, okay, it's nice to save $60. I'll see if there's
Yeah.
one on Saturday when I have time and I'm out grocery shopping. Right? I ain't gonna
No,
go.
check it right now.
Yeah, I ain't gonna go fight a crowd for $60. Like, that's crazy.
I
So
know I've
yeah,
heard a lot of people that do Black Friday content. You see all the videos of people shanking each other basically, and I didn't see any this year. Did you see any of those?
I hadn't seen any for
Black
the last
Friday,
3-4
everybody
years. Like, granted, a
fighting each
couple of those were
other.
COVID, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not a thing anymore. It's just not a need to. I think we've all adjusted and realized some of those deals aren't even spectacular deals. I literally had a deal where, and this is years ago, where I took my significant other to work in the morning. I say in the morning, it was like, 9 or 10 o'clock. And this, it tells you how old it is. Circuit City was still open. So I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, it's been a minute.
rolling back through and I'm like, let me just stop and see what they have on sale. They ran out of the TV that was on sale. They had another TV that was basically like same specs, but a different brand. and they gave me the same discount they had on the one they ran out of. So I'm like, sweet. I didn't even have to be here
Yeah,
in the morning. I still got the same deal. I loaded up a TV right then and took it home.
that's why they went out of business right there. It was totally
Maybe
good.
they sold me one too many TVs. I don't know, but yeah, crazy stuff. I think it was just an interesting deal. You know how gamers, we didn't really even notice because most of us just shop from home for a lot of stuff anyway. But seeing all the social media of people freaking out about it, and I'm like, I don't know, this seems normal, right?
Yeah.
Just not what people thought Black Friday was going to be. I think it'd be interesting to see though next week once they kind of compile all the numbers, kind of how the overall shopping day was for the big brands or not. I think that'd be more telling than what the crowds were out at the stores.
And I wonder, I'm sure at some point, I don't know, they may not, but I wonder if Amazon will show or share, because they were throwing QR codes on the screen. Hey, if you like that thing you just saw in the commercial, here, hold your phone up, So at some point, I'm sure somebody will get those numbers or a
Smart
reasonable
marketing though.
facsimile of those numbers.
Can't hate them
Yeah.
for it. Smartly done.
Hey, you want Tua just threw a touchdown. If you like a Tua jersey, click right here.
Now, okay, sidebar, this is going to be for those that are into sports ball. But if you watch online, if you pause your video and scroll down, they have an option. You can watch it in whatever they call it, like I don't know if it's like AWS Vision or whatever,
Yeah.
but they have the AI actively working while the game's going, and it's highlighting like the player it thinks it's going to blitz, and then like it's showing you
Yep.
like a route somebody's going to run. And like if you're deep into football, that is such a cool way to watch the game.
Or
Like
just fantasy sports,
yeah,
betting, all of those things.
it's really neat. Like just to see that they programmed enough that it can see the formations and start trying to figure
Yeah.
out the stuff that like the quarterback's trying to figure out. Like it's really, really cool.
And then
So
they'll show like, hey, this guy only had a 3% chance of catching this
yeah,
ball because it is caught the touchdown on.
so much good stuff there. So credit to them for getting it right and bringing something different to football.
Or when somebody has a horrible collapse, there was only a 3% chance of the opposing team winning this game, but the
Well,
pair
yeah,
sucks. So this happened.
dude. I have some other stuff we can talk about fantasy football later. But yeah, let's get into the weekly topics. So remember how we talked about Wizards mentioning the Netflix animated series still being a
Yeah.
thing? Apparently, it's really, really a thing. There was some stuff that popped up over the last week. People kind of perusing Netflix listings and IMDb stuff, and it looks like the show is actually moved to post production. Now, the reason that's a big deal is previously, I think we've only heard about, oh, well, we've got a script, but we didn't like it, so we haven't been writing it, or we selected some voice actors, but then, somebody got contracted for a thing, whatever. This is the first time we said, like, oh, we actually have already recorded and filmed a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, this is closer to being. Now, we all know this doesn't mean it's guaranteed to launch yet.
Yeah, because WB, with the Coyote versus Acme was in post production. Although I think
Yeah.
they did reverse course and it is coming out now. Batgirl would have technically been in post production, but unless somebody leaks it, which I'm sure somebody eventually will, but as of right now, we're not going to see it anytime soon.
Yeah. But this says a lot, though, that they were serious. Whether
Yeah.
it happens from this iteration or not, it does say that they were being completely genuine. That, hey, we still have plans, it's still coming. We're because they said we're in development, we're working on it. And I was like, okay, cool. We've heard that. But apparently they really were. And there's a good chance a lot of this was done months ago. So there's no telling how long it's been finished or been in post as well. So now there's no other details. I couldn't find anything as far as like who the actors were, plot, none of that. We just know that it's
That's for a
moved
project
forward.
that big, that's wild that there's not more out about that.
Yeah, and it may be one of those things that once they get closer to finalize and there's going to be a launch date, then you'll probably start seeing stuff pop up because they normally will send all that forward and say, okay, here's a list of actors, here's who the writer was, here's the director, and then it'll populate on IMDb, and then you'll have something coming later in the year. Because normally because I see it with other movies where stuff will populate and it'll just have the date, but you're like, oh, I didn't even know this thing was coming. But it's just like, it just sits there until you hear about the actual movie going to come out. Because there was stuff this year that said like 2023, and I was like, oh, okay. And then, I saw that in February, didn't see anything until I think that happened with like the Barbie movie when that popped up. And then
Yeah.
it didn't come out to like the summer or something. So I expect something similar will happen here, but mm, very
Yeah,
interesting.
because this is uncharted territory. We've never had a Magic the Gathering streaming show before, so this is all new. All new.
And there wasn't even cover art because normally you have like the splash art of like this is what they're going to use to promote it, or when you're
Yeah.
cruising Netflix, that'll be the picture that shows up.
Yep.
Didn't even see that. It just had the generic like Netflix in or whatever as part of it. So still a
But yeah,
lot.
it's for. I know it's a long. Well, I assume it's a long way off. I don't know for a fact, but it's usually there's at least a little bit out for some kind of big license project. So I guess
The only thing I
we'll
could
see at some
figure,
point.
like I said, is if everything was perfect. Now, admittedly, it just may not be possible with just timelines of TV production versus timelines of set production for cards. But if everything was perfect, I think you could do a thing where whatever the movie is based around, or whatever characters, that those characters in that story are the centerpiece to whatever set launches around that time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be surprised. Now, this is deep conspiracy, tinfoil hat, whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if they have a set done that they haven't announced yet. But it's going to go with whatever that series, storyline, whatever it is. So when
And
Mhm.
because now that I looked at it, I do remember hearing that he was supposed to be based on Gideon and Brandon Routh's going to play Gideon, and I have no idea if
Oh,
any of that is still
I heard
happening.
that got scrapped. Or at
Okay.
least, you know, heard through the grapevine. Friend of a friend. So, make of that what you will. But that sort of makes sense because when you think about it, if somebody were to like the show and then they go to buy cards or whatever, there's going to be no instance of Gideon because in real time he's been dead for what, like 4 years now. So,
But I
like,
mean, it's like comic book. You can undead him just at a moment's notice.
again, if that's a story, then you have a product ready to go about that, right? Whether it's commander decks, that's a new starter set, it's whatever, a 300 card one off set, whatever, to tie in with the Netflix series. I would think that would be the best way to do it. So when the show launches, there's a product that came out, let's say 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. So when people get interested in Magic, they could go buy the set that has the imagery and the characters that they've just come to be familiar with. I think that would be the good move. Now, can they pull it off? I don't know, but I think the only way it could be done is if you already have something ready to go. And then you just say, okay, once we announce the launch date of the series on TV, you announce the set release date to be 2 weeks before that or whatever. I think that's the only way you could pull it off. And that's a lot of work, but there's a lot of people at Wizards and there's a lot of people
Yeah.
at R&D. So it could happen. But outside of that, I mean, you risk having an experience of people watching a show, getting involved in the game, really liking it, and then coming around and we're talking about Marvel cards that month or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it just doesn't line up. So I'm hoping they have something in the pipe because it would make sense. But hey,
It,
man,
it, it would, but then we just saw Marvel have a WandaVision TV show and then kill Scarlet Witch in the comic books at the same time. So it's just people don't
well,
always do the thing that makes sense.
but we also had the issue too of I honestly believe the D&D movie was supposed to come out when that Baldur's Gate set launched.
Yeah.
But you had some production issues, whatever. It got pushed back a year. So then the set comes out isn't as well received because the movie that was going to go along with it isn't there, right? But then the movie comes out, and now some of the older Baldur's Gate cards go up in value because people are excited about stuff from the movie. So we know it
Yeah.
does have an impact, which is why, and I'm sure Wizards is paying attention and knows that. So it's like, all right, if stuff was more desirable because the movie was out, then maybe we need to make something that could have easy sales if we tie it to the movie. But we'll see. There's a lot there. But there were some interesting news about bans and possibly unbans. So, December 4th, that date was already on people's calendar because that was the next kind of banned and restricted announcement. However, this past Tuesday on their Magic Weekly show, they were saying that they've been looking at a lot of formats deeper. and looking at a bunch of tournament results, and they've kind of decided that not only does some stuff need to be banned, possibly some stuff is going to get unbanned. And that's a little bit of a shift to just say, like, yeah, we are thinking about unbanning some stuff. Now, we don't know if they will or not, but it's interesting that that was kind of part of the conversation and that they're looking at formats across the board. They actually mentioned and talked about just about every format, or at least of the major formats. And it sounds like there could be something coming for all of them. So we could be in for a pretty interesting shakeup over the December Christmas holiday break for everybody. So yeah, this is kind of big.
That's way better than the last time when they're like, okay, it's going to be an announcement. The announcement is we didn't ban anything, as you were.
Yeah, so to that point, we ended up with players upset because Wizard said, hey, just so you know, there are going to be changes on December 4th. And then people are on socials freaking out, going, well, what do we do now? Now everybody's just paralyzed and afraid because they don't want to do anything because stuff's going to get banned next week or blah, blah, blah. But the other option is what they used to complain about. For some of you ain't been around a while, it used to just be like, well, first we had set dates, like these 4 or 5 dates throughout the year when we're going to announce bans and restrictions. And that worked for a while. And then some people didn't like that. So then they changed to a thing of, okay, we're just going to announce them when we're ready to do them. You know, if we just see a reason, emergency bannings, whatever. So then people were mad because I just went out and bought all these cards for this deck. And then I find out 2 days later that I can't play with them and blah, blah, blah. And now they're not worth anything.
And you had, or I'm saying you should know if you, especially now we all got, all manner of social media. You didn't just, the reason you're trying to buy these cards is because the win rate is really high. You know, if a deck's win rate is too high, that risks getting banned. The game has worked that way for decades now.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And that's kind of the thing, right? We were better off having a warning than not, I think, for most people. Because the worst case scenario, okay, cool, you just don't go spend money on cards this week knowing there's a banning next week. Great. Now, if you're going to a big tournament that's got some $5,000 in prizes, well, it costs of doing business. Yeah, exactly. You make that decision. But at least you know you're making that decision with that possibility around the corner, right? It's different when you're making that decision expecting it to be normal and you're going to play that for the next 3-4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever, right? So I'm okay with this. I think this is a fine way to do it. The other additional piece of news they mentioned was instead of having the set couple of days they had or whatever because they didn't feel that was working and the feedback they got said that they should do it differently, they have now said sometime between 2 and 5 weeks after a set launch is when they will try to announce new bans and restrictions. And there were some people who kind of questioned that and wondered why, but I thought about it and it's like some weekends you have more events than others. Like this past weekend example, it felt like there was events all over the world for whatever reason, just the timing worked out well for a lot of things. But that's a weekend where they can get a whole lot of data really quickly, right? Let's say the set had launched 2 weeks ago, and then you have this weekend or this past weekend. Well, now you've got thousands of players that played tournaments. You have a bunch of stuff online, and you can look at all these different top eights, right? So you can make, if there were some decks that were way overperforming, you could ban some stuff right there and feel good about it. But if you only have 1 or 2 tournaments like on week 2 and maybe 1 or 2 in week 3 and maybe 1 in week 4, it took you all 4 weeks to get enough data to make a correct ruling, right? Because you also don't want to make a snap judgment. If you saw some, let's say a 500 person tournament and the top 8 was dominated by one deck, was like, well, that's still one tournament and it's like the first or second weekend. So you don't want to make a snap judgment right then. You need more data. You need to see more events. And I think that's what people weren't processing. But overall, I think this was positive, mostly because more people felt their format still meant something. Like they talked about how they were looking at all the different formats, different things they were considering. And I think that just made people feel good. And sometimes, even though nothing comes from it, there is the PR aspect of sometimes people just want to feel good and some people just want to feel heard and connect. You know how it is, right? Like, you throw people a bone and they're happy and that's okay. So I'm with it. I think this was a positive experience on Tuesday and we'll see what happens on December 4th. For all we know, a bunch of stuff could come off the ban list. Singles go crazy. Who knows what? Or the opposite. They unban something, I don't know, some random uncommon that's been on there for a while, and then they ban like 6 cards in a format, right?
A day which will live in Magic the Gathering infamy.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it could be
Maybe.
like 1 or 2 things in standard. It could be a couple of things in Pioneer, maybe 1 or nothing in like Explorer. It'd be like 7 things in Modern, 1 or 2 in Legacy. Like it could go ham. I mean, we that banhammer might be swinging. It might be a jackhammer. You know, we'll see. But I'm gonna be definitely looking forward to December 4th. We'll have something to talk about in 2 weeks for sure. Quick note that Wizards is actually getting ahead on some of the command, I guess I was about to say Command Fest, but MagicCon Chicago stuff.
Those two.
Yeah. They actually started announcing, well, one, that you can get badges and tickets. Those are on sale now. If you go to just magicon, I believe.com, or just search MagicCon, it'll come up. And you can get signed up for things right now, which is cool because before we had people that were, a month out, not sure they could even sign up for certain things, whatever. This time, we're more than 2 months out. I mean, you got all of December, all of January, and it's like the third week of February, I think. So damn near 3 months. So like this is actually credit where it's due. Again, if we want to take shots at people, we also got to give credit when people get stuff right. Man, being able to plan for stuff in November for something in February is super nice.
Yeah.
Like by comparison. Like they're just and you can guarantee your hotel rooms at a cheaper rate, flights are gonna be cheaper, like just all kinds of stuff is better when you can get it 3 months ahead of time. They've even started listing all the cosplayers that are gonna be there, their featured guests, they're talking about artists and stuff already. So some of this, like we said, it seems like every MagicCon has gotten progressively better as they've learned stuff from the last ones and figuring out what the pain points are, what they need to do better, what to include. This is just one of those things. I felt like Vegas and to some extent Minneapolis, I think were a lot of in-show things that got fixed. Now it seems like with Chicago, we're addressing a lot of the pre-show things that need to get fixed as far as information. And I'm with it. I'm good with this. I don't know how you feel about it, but like this is one that I'm like, yes, every event.
Yeah, the more I can prepare, the better I enjoy it.
I feel like there was a TwitchCon, either a TwitchCon or a DreamHack or something, not that long ago that I wasn't sure if I was going to go, but we were like 6 weeks out and I couldn't find details on a bunch of stuff. And I was like, well, then I guess I'm just not
That's
going. You know?
that's sadly pretty common, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? I skip stuff because it's just like, you're asking me to dedicate to hotel, travel, whatever. And I don't even know what's going to be happening yet. Or if there's certain exhibitors or events or whatever that I'm going to want to see. And if not, I'd rather just not take the gamble. Because it'd be worse if you're like, well, I'm going to anticipate certain people or things being there, and then they're not. Well, now you just feel like you just wasted your money for your weekend, and
Yeah,
it's not like that's cheap because you're talking 100 plus to 200 a night for your hotel, depending on where
right.
you're flying from, $200-300, maybe even up to $500 for your flight. You're eating out practically every night, depending on what your setup is. So it's like you could be out a grand easy, and then some. So yeah, I'm really glad this is one just kind of putting on everybody's radar. If you're in the area or you want to see any of your favorite creators or you're curious who's going to be there, go ahead and bookmark that page because they are updating it regularly to prep everybody for Chicago. I think this might be a first that we're going to talk about Netflix twice in one show, but
Yeah,
this time it's because I was apparently under a rock and didn't know that Netflix has a mobile gaming platform.
I think that's the thing a lot of people probably don't know.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up and put it on people's radar because I'm like, I remember hearing something about the last time they had increased prices that some of it had to do with some going to development and this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay, cool. And I thought that was like a down the road plan. I didn't know they meant developing systems they already had. Like
Yeah,
apparently,
they got a WWE game that a couple of years ago, so they've had this for a while.
yeah, I was just about to say that. Apparently, it's been around for a minute. The cool part is they're talking about bringing in the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, which is pretty sweet. And especially when we talk about a new one coming out soon because we
Yeah,
keep
we're
hearing
supposed to get
about.
an announcement next month, I think, for Grand Theft Auto 6. Finally,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
GTA has come back.
Well, hell, they had their code leaked like 6 months ago, and that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But this is pretty cool because this kind of comes back to where we talked about like Magic secret layers and how we use them, right? Every time we see weird dates shoved on a calendar, people are like, well, why there? And almost every time it's been plus or minus a couple weeks to something related being announced for that other product.
Yeah, like The Walking Dead, I think it was their final season.
Yeah. And
Fallout there's a Fallout TV show starting in April. That's originally what I thought that was probably the reason. And yeah, it's confirmed Fallout is supposed to come out. The TV show is supposed to come out in April 2024. If you look online now, there's some screenshots now of power armor and some of the ghouls, and I think the lady is going to be the main character. So looks interesting. I mean, I'm a Fallout fan, so I'm gonna watch it.
but I think that brings us back to the same situation with this, where you're probably going to have the announcement for Grand Theft Auto 6. People are going to get hyped, want to play the old stuff. They're going to be able to play on mobile, stay interactive, and you can probably do promotions for GTA 6 in that, or discounts if you
Right.
bought this other thing, build up the hype back and forth between the products. So good job. And that's a title that's big enough that it could draw people to their mobile platform. I mean, because
Yeah.
that's one of those things we talked about a lot between all the different streaming services and gaming platforms and whatever. It's hard to get traction. So if you can get one of these big titles, this could be pretty good for them. I mean, there's dudes like me just because of this, like it made news and I didn't even know it was a
Right.
thing.
You didn't even know.
And I should know. Like that's the bad part. Like I feel like I should. I mean, hell, we've done the whole show talking about like Stadia and all these other things don't even exist no more, right? I had no clue. I knew I knew it was a thing, but like I said, I thought the discussions were like of a future product. This thing's been around for a couple of years already. I've never even seen it. I mean, genuinely, I have not seen any videos, no reviews, nobody playing it. Like, so now I've got research to do because like I now want to see what it
You
looks
just
like.
open Netflix and look for, I think it's like WWE New Day. You can play the thing.
That's wild. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a look now. But this is cool. Seeing now again, do we need Netflix having more stuff? I don't know, but them getting access, or even seeing that some of these nice classic games that people really like are working with some of these platforms, could open the door for a lot of old games we don't see anymore. Maybe even getting brought up that we can play on mobile, which is pretty cool. It's a good time to be
Yeah,
a
because
nerd.
they're always, turning video games into movies, TV shows.
Yep.
So yeah, go ahead, and when you inevitably, I'm sure at some point there'll be probably a cyberpunk movie. Then hey, go play the game while you're on Netflix.
Yep. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, man, we are living in a crazy timeline to be a nerd. Seriously, where everything I mean, every comic book, video game, action figure, whatever.
Everything.
Yeah, we're getting full scale video games, like Hollywood productions, streaming series. Hell, I just saw the other day the Invincible, which is like a B tier Image comic, has a whole series on Amazon or whatever.
Yep.
So I'm just like, even that, like the stuff that's not even.
I mean, I guess B tier in comparison to Marvel, because for Image,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like
yeah.
their A-list book. Right?
Yeah. But I'm saying, if you ask a bunch of comic book fans, they don't even know who that is. And
I think a lot of people would probably know.
Oh, I bet a lot of people don't. Like,
I mean, if you're talking about like sort of like my wife that just go to see the Marvel movies, no, they wouldn't know. But anybody in a comic book shop, I think people would know who Invincible is.
Oh no, I already met a few that didn't know, and they because they asked me if I knew.
You'll find a few people that don't know who the Ninja Turtles are, but in the grand scheme of things, I think 7 out of 10 people in a comic shop probably have at least heard it. It's Robert Kirkman. He's one of the biggest creators in the industry.
But see, what's funny is that's the thing. Like, I knew of Invincible, but I wouldn't be able to identify Kirkman, which is what's funny. Like, I'm backwards. Which is no surprise. I'm that way on several things, but
and I mean, like Omni-Man's in Mortal Kombat. There's people that don't even know what Invisible is that know it now because Omni-Man he's crossed over. He's mainstream now.
That's a fair point. There's probably people who know of the character and don't even know where it came from. I bet.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably more people know Omni-Man because of the meme. Think, Mark. think Omni-Man's been everywhere for about 3-4 years.
Yeah, I bet that's probably more accurate. They probably know the
Yeah, they
characters but
might
don't know
not
the
know
origins.
even what comic book it's from, but if you show them this guy, they yeah, that's the Think Mark Think guy.
Yeah, I bet that's probably true. I could get behind that because I bet you if you showed it to people, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that meme before" or whatever, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a crazy time, man. I mean, hell, we just got a D&D movie this past summer that was great. Everybody had a good time with that.
mhm,
Obviously, we've had Lord of the Rings,
yep.
Game of
Invincible
Thrones.
apparently is going to be a live action movie at some point in the near future.
Yeah, not only that, we get Transformers every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
Like
we ain't gonna ever stop getting Transformers movies.
I
It's
mean, it is crazy to think about, really. All the hell and not only that, some of the stuff we grew up with are basically legacy brands now, where you're talking
yeah,
about Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z and whatever, like crazy stuff.
we're
Crazy
getting
stuff.
GI Joe versus Transformers now. Apparently,
Yeah, that's been in talks for a minute. So that's definitely coming. So yeah, man, I don't know. It's wild to think about all the stuff we were told was dumb or you're wasting your time with that or whatever. Now those are the things that make all the money.
yeah,
Which is crazy, just crazy. But all right,
you can get paid to sit around talking about GI Joe versus Transformers.
that we will do that at some point down the road, I'm sure. But yeah, let's have a discussion about the dinner table here for a second. But today was the day that you get your yearly Spotify review or whatever that thing is called, or your retrospective, right? Saw them all over social media this morning. And it's basically like what are your 10 or 20 most played songs and how many minutes you spent listening to stuff on Spotify or whatever. Now, I don't have one because
Me neither.
I rarely use Spotify. I mean,
Really?
occasionally here or there throughout the year,
Yeah,
but total, I probably have like 2 hours worth of Spotify listens for a whole year. Now, I spend a lot of time if I do listen to music on the go, I'm listening to it on YouTube Music because it comes as part of the package for YouTube
yeah.
Premium or whatever. So I probably have a couple thousand hours because I listen to it in the background or whatever, on this, but definitely nothing on Spotify. However, it did get me thinking, and this is another one of those things I don't think we've even had this conversation with each other, but like, what's our relationship with music? Like, how often are you listening to music? Do you listen to it with the family? You know, do your kids listen to some of the stuff you like? Like, because I honestly don't know this answer. I don't know these answers about you for real.
We like some of the same stuff. We play. I'm sure you've seen the trivia game Heads Up, and
Yeah.
my daughter put it on. I think it was best songs of 2022, and me and my wife knew almost none of them. So even and I like to think I'm pretty hip, but nah. Apparently, I woke up old one day, and again, out of maybe 9 or 10 songs that were hot in 2022, I knew maybe one of them. Even for the artists that I'm a fan of, like I like Selena Gomez's music, but I didn't know what she put out in 2022. So yeah,
Bruh.
I'm behind
I
apparently.
bet you I couldn't name more than three.
I know
Like,
you couldn't because even if you listen to it, you're bad about remembering
yeah,
like actors and entertainers' names.
songs I'd at least be able to identify if I knew what they were. But like, I don't think I would know more than three. Seriously, like
I
that's
had to go back and start listening to some of these songs. So and then next time we play, I'll have to say then just also because you hate feeling like you don't know what. Didn't want to be that Simpsons meme like, is it me? Have I gotten out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
yeah.
I don't feel like that, but yeah, I hadn't. So yeah, I just woke up one day and didn't. I feel like I know most of the stuff that becomes maybe with TikTok. You see all the like Beyonce, the Cuff
Yeah,
It
yeah.
challenge, and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the ones I got was Cuff It. But
Yeah,
yeah, I was.
it's interesting because like I don't like even when I'm in the car. Well, that's not true. So when I'm in the car, I have Sirius XM on the radio. So my main station, when there's nothing else going on, I just listen to the fantasy sports station or whatever during the
So
football
yeah,
season.
me too.
And then when they're between commercials or shows where I don't really care, I'll shift between uh Eminem has a station. I'm trying to remember what the Shade 4 5, I think is his.
Yeah,
So I listen to that. There's a 90s station. I'll listen to that.
I was gonna say I go from back and forth between 60s and 2000s. Just whatever one of my favorite songs comes on, that's where I'll stop.
Oh, see, well, they also have LL Cool J's got an old hip hop station, Rock the
I've heard
Bells.
that one.
That one's pretty cool. I listen to that. And then there's what are they? There is one that's 90s and 2000s. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember because I think they have like Heather B as a host and some others
Yep.
on there. And then there's one oh, and then what's his name? Mr. Worldwide. Like he's got a station, Pitbull. He's got a station
Oh,
on
okay.
there that does like different hip hop, Latin music, whatever. And like I kind of rotate between those. So there's a whole variety of stuff that comes up on those stations. But when I'm on my phone, like I said, using YouTube Music, the cool part about it is it has built-in features. This is going to start sounding like an ad for like go get premium because it comes to YouTube Music. But like one of the cool features I didn't know about is based on what you're listening to or whatever, it makes recommendations. And it'll also be like, hey, here's a new artist or a new song you may not have heard of that you might like. And honestly, it has a pretty high hit rate, which is kind of creepy on one hand, but the other is
the robots.
yeah, but it's also cool because I found new music that way that I didn't even, artists I've never
I hear
heard
people
of.
walking around behind me. Wait, we are using the camera today. Please be wearing pants. Whoever.
Dude, that's real in my house, for real.
Yeah, we
I don't
hadn't
even
used
have
the
kids.
camera in a minute, so we got to shoot the lookout block.
But seriously, I thought about that. Like that feature has been so good for finding music or artists or even artists I like that I didn't know they had certain songs out. And it's like, oh, this person did a feature with this other person. And it's like, oh, that's a cool song.
Yeah.
And you can just add it to your rotation or make different playlists. But it's constantly even updating the recommendations it gives you based on what you like. Or so if you use the thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. So that's been a cool way to find music. But otherwise, for me, a lot of times music becomes like background music, or for playing like board games, I'll just have something playing on the back, maybe stream.
I was about to say, but my kids are playing Spider-Man 2, and when they got to the part where this is the spoiler for anybody that hadn't played the game yet, but probably not if you've seen any of the trailers. But yeah, the part where they get to fighting Venom, I turned on Venom by Eminem from the Venom soundtrack, but the kids didn't realize that Eminem had made a song about Venom. I'm like, yeah, here we go.
Dude, that song's actually good too.
It really is.
Like, I think that's funny too. You know what I just realized when you said that? I don't remember the last time there's been a full like soundtrack released for a movie.
Yeah, they used to be the thing. You watch the movie and you buy the soundtrack, and it's a big deal because it used to be, especially action movies, every major mainstream action movie you went and you got Kenny Loggins or whoever. I mean, it was part of the Top Gun, Danger Zone. Has there been a better marriage of soundtrack and movie ever?
There's two soundtracks I remember saying. One is The Bodyguard because Whitney Houston did like almost every song on that soundtrack.
Yeah.
And then for Space Jam.
Yeah,
I probably still remember like 6 or 7 songs from that soundtrack.
But that's the thing. People don't. That's I think really why people have good memories of Space Jam. The movie, in my opinion, is just all right. The soundtrack is fire.
Yeah. Oh, the soundtrack was sick. But it's funny you say that.
Unfortunately, R. Kelly's soundtrack doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's true. He does have one of the premier songs on that soundtrack, sadly.
But there's other good songs in there too, like Basketball Jones is good. What's the one? I think it's the All-Star Monstars intro. Like you hit them high, hit them high, hit them low.
Because that one has like Method Man, and some other people on that one. Yeah. That was a good one.
I'm going to assume Redman because you can't have Method Man without Redman. I don't know for a fact, but I'm just going to assume he's on.
Oh man, Quad City DJs did one on that too, I think.
Right.
Because there were some good ones. But yeah, it's funny because I think we get individual tracks now that are representative stuff for movies, but I don't remember there being soundtracks for. I'm sure they exist, but they're just not a thing anymore.
Because I didn't hear Venom on the radio. I just said YouTube told me I would like it because I listened to Eminem and watch all the Marvel movies. Like, well, you are correct. I like rap and Marvel comics. Good job, YouTube.
Isn't that crazy though? Just like technology getting so good, it's like, oh, you're gonna love this one, and you're like, yeah, whatever, but I'll check it out. And then you're like, oh crap, I really do like this.
You see, for Scrubs, you think just because I'm black, I like the theme song from Sanford and Son? But you do like
exactly.
which is a fire theme song, by
It
the way.
really is. That's one of the most memorable TV theme songs, I'm pretty
Right.
sure. That and the Jeffersons.
Everybody can name those in probably like one note
Yep.
or maybe two. Because you're like, "Bah, bah, bah." Okay, yes. Somebody on social media, was asking the question this week: best song, Good Times or Jeffersons? I was
Ooh.
paralyzed. Those are
Ooh.
both incredible songs. It
Ooh.
just
I think Good Times is probably a better song, but the Jeffersons is more memorable for a lot of people, I think. But I think as far as composition, I think Good Times is a better song.
you're probably right. And then they played it for John Amos, and even John Amos didn't realize they were singing "Hanging in a Chow Line." That's
Oh,
just the
yeah.
one that nobody.
Well, all right, man. I think we met the brief for that. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
All right, I am Brian Psionic on the Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find me everywhere, Power Dragon, POWRDRAGN. And stay tuned because we have some pretty cool stuff coming by way of shorts, which will be entertaining. But wherever you're watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. And remember to be awesome, but most importantly, be awesome to each other.